Hello, this is Dr. Adam J. Bach. We're going to wrap up our conversation about markets and end users. So the idea here is to create an end user profile persona. So one way to think about this is that if you only had one end user to represent our profile, who would it be? Your goal is to understand their story, their goals, their needs, their pains. We're trying to put a face on the customer. Doing this helps to empathize with the customer experience. It's one thing to say, yes, we're going to try to sell products to our customers, and it's another to say, we're going to try to sell our products to Adam. That helps really present a sense of empathy and to design your product and your sales process around that particular type of person. You could use an actual name or a fictional representation. For example, HubSpot has a couple of different personas, Mary Marketing or Ali Owner, which we're going to walk through real quickly in just a few moments. So this is HubSpot. It's a CRM software, marketing software technology. And the nice thing about what HubSpot has done is they provide a lot of information through their advertising campaign about how they actually try to support their customers. And so they have on their website, they present a couple of examples of the personas that they generated as part of showing who their target customers really are. So one of them is Marketing Mary. So here's a situation where she's working for a mid-sized company. This may or may not be a real person. My instinct is that it's not actually a real person, but certainly it's a real photo. It's probably just fake information. But what it does is it creates a story around this type of customer that HubSpot is trying to market to. And in particular, it identifies the specific goals and challenges that she faces, because that way the company can identify what it is about what their services provide that's really going to be attractive to her, because they've got to convince her that she wants to use this software and to spend company resources on it. So this is a really nice example of one type of customer segment, but HubSpot markets to multiple customer segments, and so here's an example of a second one. This is Owner Ali. Again, probably a real photo, but probably a made-up story here. But notice that he's a different kind of customer. We have a different size business. He has different background and skills, and he has, importantly, different goals and challenges. Again, this gets back to this question of behavior. Why is it that these two people will purchase HubSpot? They're going to purchase it for different reasons. And so although ultimately they're both going to hopefully be customers of HubSpot, HubSpot probably has to market to them differently, and there might be different aspects of the product or service that it wants to emphasize or provide to these two different kinds of customers. So your last activity in Canvas is to think a little bit about the persona for your t-shirt. Who is that person? Try to identify someone by name that you think might actually buy your t-shirt. If you can't think of anyone, that's probably not a good sign. But if that's the case, you're welcome to use a fictional name. And then you're going to try to write a couple things down about how and why that person, you think that person might actually purchase your t-shirt. So complete the Canvas activity, and when you're ready, come back and we'll wrap up this audio presentation. So there are a number of important persona attributes even for t-shirts, right? We're talking about an element of fashion, even if it's not high fashion here. Where do people buy clothing? How do they decide what clothing to buy? Is this a case of quality or price or sale discount, style, brand name, or simply affiliation with the person who is selling the t-shirt, for example? Think about how you find new clothing and new styles. Is that how your customers find new clothing and new styles, or do they do it in a completely different way? Sometimes students are doing a t-shirt project around a specific event or a group, and so in those situations you have some additional questions you might want to ask. Where do your customers learn about the event or about the group that they're associated with? Again, the kinds of things, the questions about which clothing, how they decide which clothing to buy, but here there may be some other elements, things like social norms, whether there's souvenir quality to the purchase. And if this is really an element of personal branding, that I want people to know that I attended this event or that I'm part of this group. Who are the trendsetters? Is there someone who is part of this group or this event that if they bought a t-shirt, other people would buy the t-shirt as well? So these are very closely related, but just slightly different ways to approach this particular question. So what techniques do you use to develop a persona? Well, again, talk to your initial customers. You're going to hear this from me all course long. Talk to your potential customers. Who are they? Why might they use your product? What would make it potentially better? There are some ways to use reverse analytics. So for example, Facebook and other social network mechanisms can give you background information about certain demographics or segments. In some cases, you can use credit card data if you already have some customers. Great example of this was Shopbop. So it's sort of a strange example, but Shopbop provides clothing primarily to late teen, early 20s women. And yet when they examined their credit card data and they tried to build a persona around that credit card data, what they discovered was that the most common purchaser of their product was a male in the 40s to 50s with middle to high income. And so the first question was, what on earth is going on here? And the second, the response to that, of course, was, well, it turns out that what's happening, of course, is that the end users are using dad's credit card in order to make the purchases. That's a useful piece of information to know for a variety of different reasons. But so it can be very useful to use these other mechanisms to see how people are accessing and purchasing your product. You do just have to be careful with to make sure that you're understanding the data in the correct way. The bottom line with all of this is you're trying to start small and focused and then grow. So earlier we talked about a beachhead market, but even a beachhead market starts with a persona. It all comes down to that first customer, right? So who is this customer and why are they going to purchase the product? That helps us clarify which beachhead market is our best. If we're successful in the beachhead market, then we can move on to new target customer segments. And this is really the stepwise process that disciplined entrepreneurship talks about as a way to most effectively ensure that you're going to bring a product to market successfully. So I hope that these presentations have given you a good sense of what your market segments are like and your end user profiles as you continue to grow your knowledge about the entrepreneurial process.